Sergeant Marcus Sterling had survived 3 deployments, 2 bullet wounds, and a helicopter crash that should have killed him. But nothing had prepared him for the helplessness of lying in a cabin bedroom with his leg shredded by a bear trap meant for something else entirely. The pain came in waves, sharp and metallic, but it was the fear underneath it that gnawed at him most. Someone had set that trap in the woods behind his property. On purpose. Someone had wanted him hurt or worse, and he had no idea who. The local clinic sent over a night nurse to monitor him until the ambulance from the county hospital could navigate the storm-flooded roads. Her name was Elena Vance, and she arrived in dark blue scrubs with a calm efficiency that seemed almost out of place for a rural night shift. She moved around him, checking his vitals, her hands steady and precise, her eyes flicking to the window every few minutes like she was counting something only she could see. Marcus noticed it immediately. Combat medics did that. Nobody else did. His dog, Buster, a Belgian Malinois trained through 3 overseas tours, had been agitated since sundown. Pacing the room, growling low at shadows outside the window. Buster didn't growl at nothing. Buster had been trained by the same unit that trained Marcus, responsive. Only to specific commands and specific people. Fiercely protective and almost impossible to redirect once he locked onto a threat. When the local sheriff's deputy and 2 other men walked through the front door claiming to be backup medical transport, Buster's hackles rose and a growl rattled deep in his chest. Marcus's hand moved instinctively toward the pistol tucked beside his hip. Then Elena lifted her hand, 2 fingers raised, held, steady for exactly 3 seconds, followed by a subtle downward flick of her wrist. It was fast, almost invisible, the kind of gesture a stranger would dismiss as nothing. But Buster's entire posture changed. He stopped growling. He sat, he watched the men by the door with sharp, disciplined focus instead of blind aggression, waiting for something. Marcus's breath caught in his throat. That wasn't a random gesture. That was a field signal. The kind used in special operations canine handling, the kind only someone trained inside a very specific pipeline would know. "Where did you learn that?" Marcus asked quietly, his voice rougher than he intended. Elena didn't answer right away. She kept her eyes on the 3 men now standing just inside the doorway. One of them holding a cardboard box a little too carefully. The deputy's uniform a size too small, like it had been borrowed rather than issued. "Your dog was trained by the 341st, she said, instead, almost to herself. I'd know that response anywhere. The room went cold. Marcus had served in the 341st. It wasn't public information. It wasn't the kind of thing printed on paperwork or mentioned in casual conversation. The only people who recognized that designation had lived inside classified rooms and briefing tents most civilians never knew existed. The man holding the box shifted his weight and Buster's ears pinned back, a warning growl rolling out again despite Elena's earlier signal. Something in that box wasn't medical supplies. Elena's hand moved again, this time flat and low, a hold command. And Buster obeyed instantly, even as his body trembled with restrained aggression. Marcus realized with a jolt that whoever this woman really was, she wasn't just calming his dog. She was controlling the situation. Buying time, reading threats the way trained operators read a room before it turned violent. "Ma'am, we need to move the patient now," the fake deputy said. His tone too smooth, too rehearsed, storms getting worse. "He's not stable for transport," Elena answered without hesitation, stepping slightly in front of Marcus's bed, positioning her body between him and the door in a way that looked casual but wasn't. "Vitals are erratic. Moving him risks cardiac arrest." It was a lie, and Marcus knew it, but he understood exactly what she was doing. She was stalling, controlling the narrative, keeping herself between danger and the man she was supposed to be caring for. His mind raced back through years of training, memories of women in his old unit who could switch from clinical calm to lethal precision in half a second. Women whose real work never appeared in any personnel file. civilians could access. Was that who she was? A former operator hiding inside an ordinary nursing uniform, waiting for a night like this. The tension in the room stretched taut, the three intruders exchanging a glance that confirmed Marcus's worst suspicion. This wasn't a rescue. This was an extraction, and not the kind meant to save his life. Buster's body coiled, muscles rigid, still holding position only because of the woman standing beside him, waiting for the signal that would release him like a weapon finally uncaged. Elena's eyes met Marcus's for just a moment, something unspoken passing between them, a recognition of shared history neither of them had said aloud yet. "You should leave now," she told the men, her voice dropping into something harder, something commanding. Before this gets complicated, the box holder's hand twitched toward his hip, and in that fraction of a second, Marcus understood exactly how close they all were to violence erupting in his own bedroom, with an injured soldier, a mysterious nurse, and a dog trained to kill on command, all standing between an ordinary night and something that would change everything. If you're feeling that tension right now, imagine how it unfolds next. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss Chapter 2, because what happens in the next 60 seconds will reveal exactly who Elena Vance really is, and why Buster has been waiting his whole life for someone who finally understood him. The standoff held for 3 long seconds before Elena made her move. She didn't reach for a weapon. She didn't need one. Her hand snapped forward in a sharp, precise gesture. Fingers curled into a fist and thrust low toward the box holder's legs, and Buster exploded off, his coiled spring released. He hit the man's forearm before the pistol cleared its holster, jaws locking with brutal efficiency, and the box went crashing to the floor, spilling not medical supplies but zip ties, a syringe kit, and a folded tactical map of Marcus's property marked with red circles around the exact bedroom he was lying in. Chaos broke instantly. The fake deputy lunged for Elena, but she pivoted low, using his own momentum to slam him into the doorframe. Her movements, economical and brutally trained, nothing like the gentle competence of a rural night nurse. Marcus dragged himself upright despite the screaming pain in his leg, grabbing his pistol and covering the third man, who raised his hands immediately, recognizing when a fight was already lost. Within 90 seconds, it was over. Buster held the injured man pinned against the wall, growling low, waiting for release. The fake deputy lay groaning on the floor. The third man stood frozen, hands raised, eyes wide with the realization that this had gone catastrophically wrong. "Who are you?" Marcus demanded, breathing hard, staring at Elena as she calmly retrieved zip ties from the fallen box and secured the men herself, with the efficiency of someone who had done this exact thing many times before, just never in scrubs. "Captain Elena Vance," she said quietly, not looking up from her work. "Former combat medic, Joint Special Operations. I left the service 4 years ago." She finally met his eyes. Something tired and guarded flickered across her face. "I've been working night shifts out here because I needed quiet. I didn't expect quiet to find me." Marcus stared at her, pieces clicking into place with dizzying speed. The 341st hadn't just trained soldiers and dogs. It had trained medics who operated inside combat zones few people knew existed. Medics who learned field signals for controlling military K9s, because sometimes the difference between mission success and disaster was a dog's obedience under fire. Buster hadn't just recognized a stranger's random gesture. He had recognized someone who spoke the same language he'd been trained in. Someone from the same world Marcus had spent years trying to leave behind. The wounded man on the floor started talking fast, desperate too. Cut a deal once he realized backup wasn't coming, and the storm outside meant no easy escape. He revealed that a defense contractor Marcus had exposed years earlier for falsifying equipment safety reports had put a bounty on his silence, engineering the bear trap accident to lure him into a vulnerable position where an extraction team could finish what the trap started. It wasn't about killing him outright. It was about making him disappear quietly. Blamed on wilderness misadventure, erasing a witness who could still testify. Alina listened without surprise, and Marcus realized she'd probably suspected something like this. The moment she walked into the room and noticed the defensive positioning of his bed, the tactical placement of curtains, the way a supposedly injured man kept a weapon within reach. She hadn't stumbled into this situation by accident. Some instinct, some residual training had brought her here at exactly the right moment, or maybe it wasn't instinct at all. Maybe people who survived that world never really left it behind and their paths crossed again. Because the universe still needed them doing the work they were built for. Local police arrived an hour later once the storm cleared enough for the roads to open. And the real story began unraveling under official investigation. The contractor's operation collapsed within weeks. Once federal agents traced the falsified paperwork trail Marcus had first blown the whistle on, but that night in the cabin became something neither Marcus nor Alina could simply file away and forget. To people who had each spent years hiding pieces of themselves from a civilian world that couldn't understand where they'd been found in each other. Someone who didn't need an explanation. Buster settled at the foot of Marcus's bed once the danger passed, finally at ease, his sharp eyes now resting instead of scanning. Alina sat nearby, exhaustion replacing the coiled alertness from moments before, and for the first time that night, silence between them felt peaceful instead of tense. "Thank you," Marcus said quietly. "Not just for tonight, for understanding him, for understanding me." She almost smiled. Some signals never really go away. You just wait for someone who still remembers the language. Weeks later, headlines quietly reported the exposure of a defense contractor's fraudulent safety practices, crediting an anonymous whistleblower and swift local intervention that prevented a targeted attack. No article mentioned Alina by name. No report described the hand signal that stopped a trained military dog from turning violent chaos into tragedy. But in a small cabin surrounded by pine trees and mountain silence, a wounded soldier, a former combat medic, and a loyal dog had found something rare. The recognition of people who had survived the same fire and finally understood they didn't have to carry it alone anymore. If the story moved you, if watching Buster obey that secret signal gave you chills, make sure you're subscribed, because stories like this one, stories about hidden heroes revealed in the most unexpected moments, drop right here every single week. Hit that bell so you never miss the next hidden hero waiting to be uncovered.